The second part of the unit, I'll try to give you some new ideas generally about sources. So basically there are two types of sources, voltage source and current source. They are again classified into independent sources and dependent sources. Independent means where the value is constant. It can be an independent voltage source or it can be an independent current source. So first we will discuss about the independent sources and then we will have later a look at the dependent sources. So coming to independent voltage source, the symbol all of you are familiar with. Both these symbols can be used to represent an independent voltage source, especially it is a DC voltage source. When it comes to AC, the method is more or less the same. The only difference is the shape of the wave inside the circle. Anyway, we are more focused on the DC representation. Coming to current source, that is an independent current source. The difference is that we represent an arrow because an arrow always represents a current in any circuit. So the given symbol is an independent current source. That of course again it's a DC. Here again the difference for an AC is that there comes the shape of the wave inside. So in the slide what you find are the symbols of independent sources, whether it is an independent voltage source or an independent current source. So the similarity is that both of them are represented by the circle. So basically the circle represents that whatever be the type of source, it is an independent source. So the value is constant. So independent voltage source means it gives a fixed value of voltage. Independent current source means it gives a fixed value of current. Moving to examples of dependent sources. So here again we have dependent voltage sources and dependent current sources. First of all, what is the idea of dependent? The source value is not a constant and it depends on something else. So let us have a look at some examples of dependent sources. So there are 4 examples shown here. All of them are dependent sources. So first of all, please observe that the shape of the symbol changes. So if you remember, an independent source is represented by a circle, and if you have to represent a dependent source, we use this special diamond-like shape. Now, knowing more details about the dependent sources. As you can see here, dependent sources itself are current sources and voltage sources. So in the first 2 examples, because you find an arrow mark inside, they are basically current sources. But the below 2 examples, because you find the plus and minus, they are voltage sources. But these current sources and the voltage sources, they deliver a value depending on some other parameters. That is why they are called as dependent sources. Please have a look at the first example. You agree that it is a current source. Just look at the value of the current source. It is given by an expression. That is the basic difference between an independent and dependent. If it is an independent a current source, it will be represented by a value like 5 ampere, 10 milliampere, etc. But this one, because it is a dependent current source, its value is given by an expression, not a value. And the expression is, look at the expression KIX, where IX is again a current and it is some other branch current. So that means this is a current source which deliver a current depending on the current parameter at some other branch, or it is a current controlled current source. Let us have a look at the second example. So this is also a current source, but look at the expression given here, GVX, where G is a constant and Vx is some other voltage. So this is a current source, but it is controlled by another voltage. So this is called as a voltage controlled current source. That means we have the dependent current sources. It can be a current controlled dependent current source or a voltage controlled current source. Similar situation for a dependent voltage source. Look at the left side. This is a voltage source, it's very clear, and the voltage of that source depends on another voltage. Hence that becomes a voltage controlled voltage source. Coming to the right side, this is again a voltage source, but the voltage information depends on a current value. So this is a current controlled voltage source. So what you find here in the slide are the different examples of dependent sources. Either they are current sources or they are voltage sources. Whether they are current source or voltage source, they depends on either current or voltage. Hence we have 4 combinations of dependent source. So please check whether you have a clear idea about dependent sources. If you are not able to identify from the symbol and the expression, then all your analysis will be changed.